I'm going to get back to President-elect Trump. Throughout his campaign, we drew a lot of parallels between him, his campaign in 2016, and that in 1980 between Ronald Reagan and then President Jimmy Carter. Doug Wead is with us, and he is a presidential historian. Now, Doug, we ran these parallels. We looked at these parallels of the campaign and how the vote went down and the last-minute win by Mr. Trump. I want you, please, to look forward a little. Is there a parallel between the way Donald Trump will be president, not necessarily his policies, but his style, and that of Ronald Reagan? Is there a parallel?
I think there is. I mean, both of these men have been in show business. And Donald Trump has shown that he knows how to create the narrative, to use James Woolsey's word. They've both been divorced. They both lead political movements. They both have had a hostile, virulent media against them. They're both Presbyterians. Okay. We could go on and on.
But I always got the impression that Ronald Reagan sat back, appointed good people, and made the really big picture decisions. Chairman of the board, essentially. I get the impression that Donald Trump will be somewhat similar. Not a micromanager like Jimmy Carter, but a big picture guy who establishes a team and then figures it out from the top. What do you say?
Well, I think that we're going to get a little bit of both. You're right. He has a reputation in some of the projects, business projects he's been involved in getting the thing started and then leaving it alone, stepping out, let other people. He's got a reputation for that. But he also can get involved in the details, as you've seen in this presidential campaign, and that can sometimes drive people nuts, especially when it turns out to have worked, which it has for him.
That's very true. Now, I think it seems like the press is giving Donald Trump a very hard time, saying that his transition team is in chaos and he's rushing, etc., etc. It seems to me that Donald Trump has accomplished quite a lot in a very short period of time. He's accomplished more than Ronald Reagan did with his transition team back in 1980. Am I right?
Absolutely. Reagan, it was 6 weeks before we heard an announcement. It was 5 weeks before we heard one from Carter, 6 weeks again before we heard one from Ronald Reagan. My boss, George Herbert Walker Bush, he made an announcement after a week, but he had been vice president for 8 years, so he knew who he was going to pick. So it's a bum story. And I think it might be a bit of a gift to us, Stuart, because this narrative is so wrong and so much disinformation that it reveals the attitude of the press. We can easily prove that this story that they say it's too slow, Trump's too slow out of the gate, this is so wrong. It's good for us to pay attention to it because there will be more sophisticated stories of disinformation from the media. Now we kind of see their heart. With Reagan, they opposed him through the election. They let up after he won because we were facing the Soviet Union. I don't see the media letting up on Donald Trump, at least not yet.
That's fascinating. Doug Wead, please come back and offer some more commentary as we move through the early stages of this presidency. Doug Wead, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Stuart.